My name is Nicolette, and I'm the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of your very soul. Welcome, Alexandra and Andrea Boylan, right? Is that correct pronunciation?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, First off, I'd like to say thank you very much for actually saying yes to be interviewed today. My podcast talks a lot about self-worthiness, and I personally struggle with that the last couple of years. Also, one of the reasons why I started my podcast. And also, I was always big on corporate, and I think women venturing into different things in their own right, different industry, the noise should be out there. So thank you for what you do. And as part of my ritual, when I start my podcast, I would read a bit of my guest's introduction before we get down to business. So if you could allow me. Hey, listeners, we have the Boylan sisters here, Andrea and Alexandra, who are award winning filmmakers. They were awarded a Teddy for Best Inspirational Screenplay at the Movie Guide Awards for their movie Swish. Their films include Wish for Christmas, Catching Fate 2, Switch, The Greatest Inheritance, and Identity Crisis. Andrea and Alexandra grew up as pastors' kids at Byfield Parish Church, north of Boston, Massachusetts. As teens, they wished they could watch movies they enjoyed and their parents approve of. Since 2013, the two have set out to make female-driven, faith-based movies that appeal to audiences of all ages. Welcome, Andrea and Alexandra.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So tell us, what was it like growing up as Andrea and Alexandra Boylan?
Sisters.
I'm the
Anybody
oldest.
can go first.
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Right.
I'll tell you what it was like because I had to live for 7, almost 8 years with 2 brothers waiting for my sister. So my sister
Wait, I thought you
came.
guys were twins, no?
No.
No twins.
So it
Right.
was like a dream. It
Yes.
was a dream come true to have her because I wanted a sister so badly, and it was amazing and wonderful to be able to be her big sister, and then later in life to be able to start working together. This has been a blessing and wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were very encouraged by our parents to go after our dreams, which is awesome to have parents who support you, especially like when I was young, I really wanted to be an actress and I wanted to work in the film industry. And a lot of parents can go, oh my gosh, that's scary. But I feel like our parents really encouraged all of us to go after our dreams. And we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't have that support system and encouragement. And our father's a minister, so pastors are always telling stories and getting up in front of audiences. So it makes sense that a lot of us went on to become storytellers, and we love telling stories. So it helped us pave the way for our career.
I think parent support are very important. I mean, I come from Asia, so creatively, Asian parents are always on the logical side. So it's like, okay, get your education. It's either accounting, engineering, lawyer, law, or doctor. That's more secure. So I think I don't think I've known anybody in my country. There are, but it's not as big as in the US. So what a privilege for me to be able to interview you guys. Okay. You're welcome. So, right, how did you start getting into the filmmaking industry?
So, well, I moved to Los Angeles. This is Alexandra. I moved to Los Angeles when I was 19 years old to pursue acting all by myself. And I spent 10 years really pounding the pavement of trying to break into the film industry, which is so hard. As people can imagine, it's a very nepotism industry. So when you don't know anybody and you don't have any family, I came out here very naive, just thinking I was going to become the next movie star. And I spent, 10 years trying so hard to work as an actor, and I just couldn't, I couldn't get my big break. And then in 2011, I made a feature film because I was like, oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop waiting for someone to pick me and I'm going to pick myself, and I'm going to learn how to get behind the camera and create my own project so that I can star in that project. And then I made, so a couple of friends and I just made an independent feature film. We were able to end up selling that to a major distribution company. And then that opened up the doors to continue to create content. And then I got a chance to make a faith-based film, and I called my sister and I was like, do you want to collaborate on a female-driven faith-based film? Because back in 2011, there really wasn't a lot of, there was no faith-based film starring women. And and there was also, looking at the landscape, a lot of the creators in the faith space are men. So it makes sense that they're like them. So when Andrea and I came along in 2011, we were like, we're going to make things that look like us. And Andrea and I teamed up and we made our first female-driven faith-based film called Catching Faith. And we ended up selling that, and it went on to become the top 5 consistent selling movie for the distribution company. And that we were like, oh, I think we're onto something, speaking of women and telling a woman's story. And that really opened the doors for all the film. We've made 6 films together now. And but we kind of started, I started when I was 19, and then Andrea joined in about 2011. And we've been doing it for like 12 years now.
So, wow.
And Andrea can share her if she wants. So her perspective on the film industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I always love the fact that my story really is saying yes. Alexandra paved the way. She went to Hollywood. She did all the hard work, and then when she was invited to write a faith-based movie, and she invited me into that. And I like to tell the story that I literally was standing at the top of my steps with a basket of laundry. I had 3 kids, all in elementary school. I was a stay-at-home soccer mom. And when she asked me if I would join her, I first, I'm sure it was like, well, I've never written a screenplay before, but I had done a lot of writing. Sure, I'll consult on it. And then as we continued to talk, I ended up becoming a co-writer with her. And I'm so glad that I said yes.
Wow. What an inspirational story between siblings, like for you guys to join forces and just go ahead. Okay, so that sort of build up to my next question. So what are the roles that each one of you take when you make a movie?
Great question. Do you want to go, Andrea, or do you want me to go?
I mean, I can start. We write together. So we write and we do a lot of creative bouncing, story ideas. Alexandra is really the big high concept storyteller. And but I am actually a licensed clinical social worker by trade, which means I do a lot of counseling. I work with a lot of families that have had some kind of trauma in their lives. So the part of the writing that I bring to the table, I think, is just that next level of what kids and families are struggling with, and issues that are, that families, especially in the United States, are dealing with right now. So I bring that to the table as our writing team. And then when we go to actually make a movie, we're pretty scrappy. So every place that we work, we always are. We make lots of friends and with people in the community, and so I'm part of the team that actually finds the locations and produces and gets the movie off the ground. And then for the last 3 movies, I was actually the production designer, which means that I did everything that you see that's the art behind the camera. So not the costumes, not the makeup, not the hair, but anything you see, like a prop that they pick up, a book, whatever's decorated in the background of the bedrooms or what have you. I was responsible for that.
Yeah. And she's amazing. And it's so good because
I can see that both of you are.
Well, because we write the script, it is great to have her do production design. We really want to move into directing after now we've produce so many films. We'd like to direct it so that our vision of the writing really is carried out in the filming. And then I would say I mean, we both collaborate so much on creating the project, we write it and then we take it from conception to completion and then we sell it to a distribution company. So we're really involved in everything because I come from so many filming on sets and being an actor and working in the industry. I would say, I mean, I've done a lot of the fundraising, going out and getting the money,
The money, the budget, yeah.
people, and then taking meetings with the studios and living in Los Angeles and constantly hustling to meet people. And then I'd say on the production side, pretty much everything from casting. Since I come from acting, I love doing all the casting. Before we had casting directors, I did all the casting for our movies. And then crewing up, hiring all the crew, having conversations with the crew, and then just kind of running the set is being filmed. It's like a well-oiled machine. If you've hired all the right people, then everyone takes their jobs and they run with it. But of course, we oversee it. And then we have a post-production team that edits it and does the sound design and color correction. And then also, we're very much part of helping to get it sold because of our relationships with all of the distribution companies and just, I mean, so much of any business is about relationships. So throughout the past 24 years, yeah, we've been working and I've been working in the industry, building relationships with people. So I can call a distribution company and say, hey, will you take a look at our movie? So we do everything.
Wow. I am floored. Like, I have so many things in my head right now. Like, I have so many questions. Like, how do you okay, because the only thing we do, like me as a consumer, like I consume the movie, right? But I don't know the extent of the work that goes behind it. And I'm sure it takes a lot of work and effort, like rallying the group to get the money, the concept even. I mean, okay. And this is why my next question is, how do you set up a team when you decide to make a movie? What is the step-by-step process?
It's a great question because I would say for a while, we kind of had a well-oiled machine. And, I made my first feature film for $10,000 all in with like 5 people in the New Mexico desert. And then when we got the opportunity to make the next movie, I brought all those people back to do the next movie. And then we just started building a team. And as we had a little bit more money to make a movie, we were able to hire more people. And then everyone that we love, we're collecting all of our tribe. It's like a film tribe. And so if you love your director, your cinematographer, your costume designer, we just kept hiring people. So if you see the credits of our movies, you're going to see a lot of the same names because we continue to work with the people that we love. And of course, you're also learning the ones that you're like, maybe that's not the right fit for our next movie. We're not going to work with that person, but we're going to work with this person. So I think a lot of it is, I mean, I've made 8 features now, all these people. And when we start, we're always going to go and call the first person that we want for the job. And if they're not available, then you got to go to the next person. And then, our last movie, Identity Crisis, was the first time Andrea and I teamed up with another production company. Usually we've done everything ourselves with our team. And then this movie, we went out and got a production team to partner with us as producers to help bring in more. Then that was a really interesting collaboration because we were 50-50. So sometimes they'd bring in a crew member and we'd bring in a crew member. And then you're just kind of building everybody. But I think, sometimes the first thing about making a movie is once you have your script and you have the money's number one, then you got to find your location. Yeah. And then you got to find your location. So a lot of times where we go to shoot a movie will be based on the location. So our last movie, we needed a college campus. The whole Identity Crisis takes place on a college campus. So once we got Grand Canyon University said you can use ours. So boom, we knew we were shooting the movie in Phoenix, Arizona. We had our location. And then from there, we're going to try to hire as many locals. But then a few of our other films we've shot in Louisville, Kentucky, because we knew we could get some houses in a high school. So there's so many stages to how to put something together. It's also having to pick one movie because each movie has had a different process and we've done so many. But It all starts with really getting a really awesome location and then going, okay, we're shooting that town. And then when you go to that town, you look around to find who the crew and you just ask for referrals within that town. Did that answer the
Wow.
question?
Yes, yes. And I want to take a step back to like, okay, now it's like um bringing it into life, right? Like I think this is where Andrea comes in. Like where your inspiration, where do they come from? Like what do you like? Is it just through your like when you're I don't know, you're showering or your own life journey or when you are speaking to your clients? Like, yeah, like tell us.
Inspires us to tell our stories. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I was bragging on Alexandra before, I think she often is the one that has the initial spark of an idea, something that's like really creative or out of the box, and we we really want to tell fun, compelling stories. So that's our first thing. Is like how whatever the topic might be, it's like how can we illustrate this, in a really fun way. It's the our last movie, Identity Crisis. I think Alexander was like, what if you had a twin that looked exactly the same as you, and but your twin was able to do all the things that you don't feel like you could do yourself. And then there was like this discussion of how would you illustrate that, and then that's how the clone idea became. It's like, well, what if you actually could like wire yourself, like, okay, Andrea doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I can speak in front of a group of people. What if I could create a version that looked just like me but could do the thing I don't feel like I can do? And then that we started to kind of kick around, and we did a lot of research and really discovered, and Alexandra mentioned this before, that there's a very high percentage of women, girls in particular, that don't raise their hand in school to answer the question because they're not sure they're right. Boys are much
Yeah.
more willing to raise their hand and say the wrong answer, and they're okay with it. But girls want things to be
Yeah.
perfect, and they want to make sure that they make
Oh
the right
gosh, yeah, that
answer,
is so true.
right? So they a lot of times don't
Yeah.
have to find their voice academically or in school. And so that's kind of how this whole story of Identity Crisis came along. It's like, well, here's this really brilliant student, but she won't hand her homework in. She won't hand her work in because she's too afraid of failing. She really has the right answer,
Mm.
but she won't even allow the teacher to evaluate her. And then she doesn't want to work in a group because she doesn't want to fail in front of. And so we had this really fun way of how could, I mean, it's, you can't clone yourself, so it's completely fantasy. But what if we could? What would we change about ourselves? And then what would happen if we made those changes? What would actually manifest? Would it work out better, or is it better for us to each be working on ourselves and be the best versions of
Yeah.
ourselves, which is actually how the story concludes. So for us, I think that creative, like I think Alexandra had the initial spark of what if, and then we started to kind of dig into the topic of self-confidence and how could we talk about that in a really fun, compelling way. And Identity Crisis, the movie, came out of that.
Yeah, and I'd
I,
love to tell,
yeah,
sorry,
sorry, Alexandra.
to tell the audience what Identity Crisis is about. Identity Crisis, our newest film that is just released, is about a shy science whiz in college who struggles with imposter syndrome and confidence issues, feeling not good enough, and she figures out how to clone herself and send her clone off to do all the things that she's afraid to do, only to discover that she was already created the perfect version of herself and she had all the courage, she just needed to try. And it really is a beautiful story. We love to try to hit the 8 to 15-year-old girls them and get them ready for college and life, and say there is no such thing as failure. Try. It's okay. Try again. And that's the whole premise behind Identity Crisis. And we hope that it would inspire young girls to step out and not, it's, you regret more the things you don't do than the things you do. So it's best to go after it and give it a try.
That's actually my mantra. I don't
Yeah.
want to be doing something that I would regret. But I would rather have this notion of, oh, I'm glad I did that. Although it did not work out, if it did not work out, then just said, oh, what if I'd done that? So Like,
Totally. The answers are no if you didn't try or ask. I say that all the time to people when they're afraid. I'm like, well, if you don't do anything and you don't ask, the answer is already no. So you might as
it's
well go
already
for
no.
it. You have nothing to
Exactly.
lose.
You got nothing to lose. That's so true. Okay, so how do I watch this Identity Crisis? Is it on Netflix? Because I don't. Is it on Netflix?
No, it's
Um,
Amazon, Apple
right,
TV,
Amazon. Okay,
Amazon, Apple
okay.
TV, Vudu, and uh, yeah, I do know that people in other countries have been able to watch it on Amazon. We wish we were on Netflix. That would be amazing. We're still hoping to get some more platforms for the movie, but Amazon's the best place to find it.
I think I have Amazon. But okay, now you just brought up a new question for me. Like, how do one film like get onto like this big platform like Disney Plus? Like, what's the process behind it?
The process is, well, for us, we're independent. So we aren't making it with a studio. We are completely
Right.
independent, which is great because we get to take our films from conception to completion without a studio telling us what to do.
Without input from other people, which may just, I mean, defeats the whole direction of the movie. Yeah.
It can ruin the movie when there's too many hands in the pot. The movie gets ruined. It's why a lot of studio movies, sometimes you go watch them and you're like, what is this going on? It's
What?
because 25 people gave it an opinion.
So that's the pros and cons to it. Okay, okay.
So for us, we will make the film, and then we'll have a sales agent. We've had a sales agent for many years who takes it out and pitches it to Netflix and Hulu and distribution companies. So if you don't get the streaming deal, like if Netflix doesn't buy your movie as an original, then you go with a distribution company, and then the distribution company will pitch you out to all the platforms, and then Netflix either says yes or passes. So it's a big process, and unfortunately Netflix passed on our movie, which we were really surprised because it's such a delightful, empowering movie. But I think there is unfortunately a thing in Hollywood where there isn't. They say they want to empower women, but then when it really comes to it, they don't want to. So
The paradox to it, right? Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
because I go to a lot of meetings. We're like, yeah, we're all pro women, and then we show up with this incredibly inspiring, uplifting, clean teen girl movie, and they're like, no, we don't want that one.
Yeah. We want this concept. We're leaning with this theme, but then no, not that movie. But the
Right.
movie talks about the very essence of that. But yeah. So it's, I mean, to bring it even to let me just take it a step further. Like, if I were to resonate with where, I guess I still have a 9 to 5, right? I mean, this is just an example. Like, we have this inclusion, diversity idea, because that's big now. So it's like, I was just talking to my colleagues, and like, the idea is supposed to be the center of the team, but we see people that are being hired are not really reflective of that. So we're like, they want idea to be the forefront, but then you're not really, the actions doesn't really support that. So, I mean, we're aware, organizations are aware, but I think a lot more needs to be done to work towards it. But I think our work is not, definitely not in vain. We're just paving the way for generations behind us to continue the work, right? So
Andrea and I have been paving the way for other women filmmakers for the past 12 years. And even anytime we get a little win, we know that that's a win for the girls behind us who are trying to do what we're doing, that haven't been able to break through because especially in the faith space, it is very male dominated, just like Hollywood is. Everything is, So we feel like we're trailblazing.
corporate world too. The corporate world too, yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think, yeah, I wouldn't change it any other way. Like, we're trailblazers, I would say. Like, again, like I said, like myself, like, podcasting is not big in Malaysia yet. But if I don't give it a try, I mean, I wouldn't know, right? That's so yeah. I would like, I think, not even I would like think, I think that at least with me trying to speak up, inviting people outside of the country to actually speak on my platform will really just open up the avenues for people to not, they don't need to follow what I do, but it's just a stepping into their own thing. Everybody has their own unique gifts or talents that they want to explore, and just be okay with that, and just connect with the other, I don't know, the other parts of the world, because truly we're not really silo anymore. We're seamless right now. So yeah, me also trying out. So I'm living your values and your, yeah.
That's awesome. And then people see you do it and they think, well, then I can do it. It's like, it's so important for for people to step up and try it, because then someone else will go, well, if you're doing it, then I can do it, and that's
Yeah,
so great. Inspire so many people to
yeah.
yes.
And let me do it my way, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it could be anything, singing or whatever, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you, Alexandra and Andrea. So right, how long have you been in the industry? I think you said 24 years. Yeah, and what are the biggest takeaways that you have walked that path on being in the entertainment industry?
Do you want to take that, Andrea? You want to go first? What are you taking away?
You go first.
Please. In the film industry, that the most important thing is to have a tribe of people around you that are amazing. When I first got into the industry, when I was acting, I hung out with only actors. And then I started wanting to make my own films. And I realized I needed to have people around me that wanted to do different things. So it was so important to go find someone who wanted to be a director, somebody who wanted to hold the boom, because that's the only way you can create an independent film, is if you have a collaborative team that is willing to do something different than what you want to do, and finding like-minded people. And I think the other biggest takeaway is that, being good to people who are there with you when you didn't have anything. When I started off making films, I had like no money to pay people, but I was like, I promise I will finish the film. And then I promise that if I get another film and I get paid, if I have a bigger budget, I will hire you and pay you more. We have been so loyal to the people who've been there for us throughout the past 12 years. And that speaks volumes that, it's why we've made so many movies, is because we are people of our word, that if we, and we treat people really well on set. And one of the things I don't like about Hollywood is there's this hierarchy, and on set, I've been a PA, I've been a stand-in, I've been at the lowest, I've worked in the industry at the lowest common denominator of a person on a film set. And I don't like that makes me discarded and not important. And on our sets, everyone is important. Every single person steps on. If you just bring us a cup of coffee, you're important. And that spirit is so beautiful, that like people want to work with us because we treat people. And there's a lot of business where everyone's just trying to get to the next step and trying to grab from other people. And I always say, be as willing to give back as much as you ask. So, I'll call people and say, what do you need right now? How can I help you? Because so much in our business is people just take for themselves. And they don't see the forest for the trees. They don't think, you want to be in this business the next 10, 20, 30 years. Don't be just out for yourself so much that in 10 years.
That is so true.
With you.
Yeah. It's not only for your own interests.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm going to tag on to the end of what Alexandra said, that I think that you're never wasting while you're waiting. And because I think there's a lot of waiting. And one of the interesting things that we've experienced is that we've written a story or a screenplay and really thought it was the next one we were supposed to make. Like, this is a great idea, and we wrote it and we're ready to go. And then what has happened is sometimes we've written a few and they've gotten made out of order of how we actually wrote them, like in our life experience. And always the movie came out at the perfect time when it was needed, like we had a movie that came out about family and appreciating one another and reconnecting with your loved ones right after COVID, and we didn't know COVID was going to happen at the time that movie, we thought that movie might have happened 3 years before, and it didn't. So I think that idea, it's really hard in I don't know how it is in Malaysia, but in the United States, we have very short attention spans and we want things really fast.
Mm,
We wanted it yesterday, and so
yeah.
it's hard to wait. I'm guilty of that too. I'm like, I've got this great idea and it needs to happen right now. But I
Yeah.
think what I probably really learned is just how important like waiting is, and that the timing is always ends up being right if I'll just relax and be patient and kind of steadily work along. That kind of fits in with what Alexandra also said about our team, like being, taking time with relationships and people, and being
Mm,
loyal, taking the time, investing in people and them investing in us, and all together. Then it's like that there'll be this experience or this next movie we want to make, and it's exactly the right people at exactly the right time, and this wonderful movie. And you can feel it when you watch our movies. I always feel like you can feel the magic that was happening when the movie was being made, and the way everybody loved each other and enjoyed each other, and the delight and the kindness and of the way everybody was treated. You can feel that through the vibe of the film, and that's really important. And all of that takes time, and sometimes you have to be patient and wait even though we don't want to.
yeah. And I think just to tie that also, it's like as much as we want to chase and get it out there, that we believe the content is the next it thing, it's about the intention. I think the intention matters, so the timing will align it for you. It's like, yeah, like just like what you said. I think also we can apply that to life.
Yeah.
We, let's say, want to go travel somewhere, and it's like, okay, I want to this I've covered this and I want to do this part of the world this time around. And it's like, but then sometimes life happens, and but when the right time comes, let's say, okay, your family suddenly says, I want to join you. Perfect. Before, we wanted to go 2 months earlier. Had you gone, you would not have they would not have made, and you wouldn't have maybe made new memories with them. This is just me thinking out loud, like trying to connect it with daily life, right? So
Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
Nicolette, I want to encourage you,
Yeah.
because you said earlier about the fact that podcasting's not big in Malaysia yet, right? Well, you're
Yes.
on the cutting
Yes.
edge, and you're doing something that isn't big yet, but it's going to be big. Trust me. And you're on the front end of it, and you're trailblazing and doing a beautiful job. And thank you for having us to be able to tell our story. And I'm
Thank
so excited. I
you.
can't wait to see how that timing, happens. But because you had the courage to step out and do it, you're gonna be one of the first, and you're gonna be on the front end of something big, I think.
Thank you, Andrea. That means a lot to me. Like when I started, it was like I had to look to the people that have done this, like Jay Shetty. He's been doing this for like what, 10 years, and I know Joe Rogan is big in the U.S., but I just had to find my own niche. Or Stephen Bartlett, UK, right? So I just had to find my own niche, and it's just okay. And because of some trauma, again, we're going back to the essence of my podcast, some trauma that I had, and that forced me to look inwards. And it's like, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm good at? So I have a 9 to 5 still, but I'm building because I love talking, and I found that, okay, communicating, connecting is my strength. So let me see what I can build from this. So thank you for the encouragement, Andrea and Alexandra. Okay, so what is your advice for women out there hoping to venture into the industry of filmmaking?
Oh,
What
keep
is our
going, keep
advice?
going,
Oh
keep
gosh.
going. That's what I'd say. Keep going,
I
keep
love
going,
that.
keep
Keep
going.
going, keep going, keep going.
It fits exactly with what you just said about podcasting. You know, whatever it is you're doing, if you feel like that you are called to do it, then keep going. Even if it doesn't look like it's working out now, those seeds of the things that you're experiencing and doing, they're going to grow into something, and just stick with it. It's really, it's a long game. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. I would say when you get to a position of power, go to bat for other women, bring other women with you.
Yeah.
It's so, unfortunately, I've lived in Los Angeles for 24 years, and I've seen that, there's so few spots for women at the top that we end up having to, kind of fight each other for it. And we want to collaborate.
Yeah.
Or um, clamoring each other to get to the top. Let's collaborate. And when you get there, send the ladder down for the next person. Andrea and I always, we obviously, if you see all of our films, they star women. We've had makeup artists come on set and be like, I've never had this many women on a call sheet in a one day of filming. Usually all men with one woman. And so for us, like, my advice to women is that we cannot complain about the problem. We need to be the change that we want to see. So if whatever walk of life you are, even if you're not in the film world and you don't like what you're seeing, don't complain, change it, go for it. I've been in women in film for many, many years, a lot of women organizations, and I would go to these groups and the women would just complain. And I'd be like, there's 100 of us in this room.
Yes.
Why are we complaining? Why are we all just collaborating and and if somebody won't let you sit at their table, go build your own table and invite your friends to sit with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of tables that we don't get.
Thank you.
That we have been rejected to sit at, and we're like, fine, we'll go build our own table. And a lot of our career has been us continuing to build our own table, because we'll pitch our movies, we'll pitch our projects, and we'll get rejected, and we're like, fine, we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to prove that there's an audience out there desperate for what we're doing. And I just think it's really important for women to lift one another up. And I used to go to a lot of studio women in film events where a studio executive would be talking to a woman, and she would admit that she had never hired a woman for a directing job or for a cinematography job. And it's like, you can't get there and then not send the ladder down. So I think that that's my biggest advice, is please go to bat for your fellow women. And if you have the ability to have the power, stand up and say, I'm hiring women, so that women can get the job. Many times they just don't have a resume because they don't get the job. But if we give them the job, they can put that on their resume, and that can so yeah, that's my biggest advice. And also be willing to pivot and be willing to just keep going and figure it out, and don't take no for an answer. Just I mean, Andrea and I have literally been rejected a million times, and we just keep pushing forward, and we're like, we know what we're doing, So keep going. Just do it.
I had to pause and take that in, because that is the very core of everything that I do. Standing true in your power, I think knowing your why and just going ahead. Crawl if you have to, but don't stop.
Yep. And I always hear from people all the time, if I could just get this, if I could just get that. I'm like, nobody owes us.
That's so true.
Bill, if I could just, why won't they give it to me? I'm like, no one's going to give you anything. You might have to be the one to create it, And so that's why so many of our films are independent, where we've gone out and we've had to figure it out and do it ourselves, because no one owes you anything. You don't have to get a studio deal. That would be a gift, but yeah.
Again, if I were to resonate that with my podcast, like, I don't have like a proper like $1,000 of camera to buy. I'm you guys are on my iPad, and I got Riverside, and it's hooked up. I got my microphone, which I think I will upgrade it soon to another one. But at least let's just get started and improve along the way.
Just get started. I love that. And be willing to work with what you have. There's
Yeah.
so many times that we have not been able to raise all the money that we wanted for a movie, or didn't have all the equipment we wanted. But guess what? We went ahead and did it anyway. We created it,
Woo, I love
and then we're
I love that.
stepping up every time, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger.
I love that. Whew, we're in the business of lifting women up. I love it.
Amen.
So, is it important to find your niche when making a movie?
Well, yes, I think so. And I think we've really worked hard at finding our niche, and we really believe we want to make content for girls 8 to 14, and particularly girls, something that is enjoyable for girls that they are engaged with, but that they can watch with that's clean and wholesome, and that they can watch with their moms or their parents. So that's been our
Yeah.
niche that we found is a real place in the market that there's lots of content for kids and teens, but it's gotten a little bit not so much value driven, and we feel really strongly that we want to make value driven content for that age group.
Yeah. Yeah, and building a brand. Branding is so important. Everyone talks, so niche is kind of another word for branding.
Yeah.
You're branding yourself. And exactly. Yeah, and when you go into a meeting, we're very consistent with what we're doing. We have all these films, and then we have all these scripts that all kind of go together. And the other thing I think why it is so important is because you're building an audience. And if you go and make a horror movie audience, and then if you run over and go and make a faith-based film, then you've got to go build your faith-based audience. And then if you go and make a, action adventure movie. So every time you're making a film, you're building your audience. So you don't want to run all over the place making a bunch of films with different audiences, because then you're starting over every time. And because my first movie was a thriller, and I was working really hard to build that audience and make connections in the thriller horror world, then I moved to Faith-Based Family. And when Catching Faith came out, I lost all that work I had done for my thriller horror connections. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of work. You're not going to want to go do that for every single film. So a niche is really important because you're really building your audience. And if you aren't a studio movie, which probably most people aren't when they're starting out, you're collecting one viewer every time and hoping that they'll come back for your next one. And so, like what Andrea just said, we want to make clean teen girl content for mothers and daughters that parents love and kids love. And we want to know, I want them to know that if they see our name on it, they can trust us. And that's what Andrea have been
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. Like when they see, okay, from the producers or writers of Dash.
Yes.
Then, oh, okay, we know it's like the Boylan sisters. Then we know, oh, yeah. So the power of branding and also finding your niche.
Yeah.
Again,
the
it comes
Boylan
down
sisters.
to the why, right?
The Boylan sisters.
Yeah, the Boylan sisters. Like,
and kids will love it. That's like our
Oh, is that your slogan, the logo?
one of them. Yes.
All right. Okay. So next question. So if you had to start all over again, what would you have done differently that would probably lead to a different outcome?
Well, if I could start all over again, when I moved to LA at 19, I would have started making my own films right away. I wouldn't have waited 10 years to create my own content. I think that we were really lucky. The movie that I made that sold was probably the last year an indie movie like that was going to sell to a major distribution company. So the industry is changing so fast and all the time, and we're always trying to keep up with distribution, audiences, how people view things. So I do wish that I don't regret anything, because I believe everything leads to where you are. But if I could change it, I would have 10 years earlier started creating my own content, learning the business of film business, as opposed to only pursuing one thing as an actor. I would have wished that I had tried to have more skill sets when I was younger. That would be what I wish that I had done. Andrea?
Well, because I feel like this has been like a second act opportunity for me, it's been the last 12 years of my life. I would actually say, I don't know, so let's talk life lessons. I would say earlier in my life, I said no too much. I felt limited or felt like
Mm,
I couldn't do that and I
mm.
didn't try. And I think ever since I said yes to filmmaking, this has been a different part of my journey, and it's been a really wonderful creative time in my life. So I don't have a lot of regrets, but I do.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I guess that going back to the waiting thing that I talked about before, I was a person in my earlier part of my life that was always racing to the next thing. I always wanted to I was
Mm.
in grammar school. I wanted to get to high school. High school, I wanted to get to college. When I get to college, everything will come together. Then I want to get married. Then if I just have kids, and I feel like there's a lot of beauty that I missed because I was always waiting to get to the next thing. And I would say
Mm.
that this last few years hasn't felt like that. It's felt more like, oh my gosh, there's just so much beauty and adventure and creativity in it. And also my children are getting older. So the other part of that is I kind of want them to go back, because I'm like, wait a minute, I might have missed a little bit of some of the joy because I was hurrying to try to get to the next stage.
Right,
That's probably a
right.
life lesson for me, is just to be in the moment and enjoy it, because life is precious and every moment is a gift. And I believe that, but I did not spend the first 30 years of my life living that way at all.
I love it. And it's never too late, right?
That's
Like,
right.
yeah.
Andrea brings up a really good point. It's really important for your listeners, because I do it too sometimes, where I doubt myself and I go, oh, I don't know how to do that. But you can figure it out. And there are many things that I have also, Andrea, that's a great one to say, like, don't say no, say yes and figure it out. And I think we all think that everybody else in the room knows what they're doing, but especially in the film world, no one knows what they're doing, and everyone out as they go, even the highest at the studio level. And when I think that, I'm always like, I wish I hadn't said no here. Or, Andrea, that was a great one, because I think that's really important, is that say yes and you'll figure it out. And I just want to say, I just heard a woman who worked at Netflix say something I think is really important for women in your audience. She said that she would be applying for jobs and she would see that you needed 10 requirements. And if she didn't have all the 10 requirements, she wouldn't apply. But then she found
Yes,
out
yes, yes.
who got the job sometimes only applied when they had one qualification. This position at Netflix, she only had 3 out of the 10. She ended up getting the job, and she was in the room and she's like, I had no idea what was going on. And then she went on to become like the vice president, and because she figured it out. And ever since I heard her say that, I was like, I'll do that on LinkedIn if I'm looking for a side hustle job. And I'm like, well, I only have 3 or 4 of the 10 qualifications. Now I'm like, I'm going to apply for this and I'll figure out whatever I don't know when I get there. And half the time, we probably know more than we think we know. And then you find out everybody else
Yeah,
doesn't know it either. So,
I
Andrea, that was
exactly.
I
say
love that
yes.
you Yes, I love that you said that. And Nicolette, that goes back to what you said earlier about the corporate world. I think actually professionally across the board, people that even the people that use big words, that's just them covering for all the stuff they don't really know. Right?
Exactly.
And you can have a really huge vocabulary, but it's just like to try to throw people off that that everyone's
Uh-huh.
doing, even though nobody really feels like they know what they're doing. And so that's awesome, awesome advice, Alexandra, that no matter what field you're in, just step into it and try it, and you can learn. And nowadays, and this kind of goes into the podcasting, right? Nowadays, YouTube it and someone will teach you. Like, you don't have to go to
Yeah,
school. You can
exactly.
like learn. I fixed my washing machine with YouTube. Like, I mean, you don't have to know everything. And anyway, that's great advice. Just step in and say yes.
That is so true. Like, thank you for touching back to the corporate world, because I had a guest who actually said the same thing. A job, 10 requirements, women, 5, maybe men 3, but still the men would have that confidence, like, okay, three is good enough. It's like better than nothing. I'm gonna go and try. While we women, we discredit ourselves because, oh, I don't have the remaining 5. I don't think I'm good enough. So therefore, it's embedded in our head that we have to take a step back and be perfect before we are worthy to get that job or role or anything in life. And again, we are the ones not giving ourselves a chance to step up and just, equalize. Yeah, I don't want to use the word equalize. I don't want to just throw it out there. But yeah, again, but we're doing great things.
That's right.
Slowly, we're going there. Yeah. Okay, so few more questions. So what is next for the both of you?
Ooh.
Oh, we many, many more movies. One fun thing that's new for us. So all of our, I don't think we said this, but all of our movies, Andrea, because she's a clinical licensed social worker, they all come with companion materials. So we have high school curriculums, youth groups, Bible studies, journals for girls. We have devotionals, so families can watch our movies and actually buy the books and discuss it and talk about the themes and how to live out the themes in our movies. And then with Identity Crisis, we saw that there was like a real need in the YA space for better content for young girls. So we wrote a novel that accompanies Identity Crisis, which is available on Amazon. So that was our first time writing a novel. Just in our spare time, we wrote a novel.
Wow.
But again, Andrea and I have never written a novel, and we stepped into it and we said, let's do this, let's try. And we did, and now it's on Amazon. So
Oh my God.
and so we'd love to do more novels. Of course, we've written a lot more screenplays, and we're so like we said, we're independent, so we have to go raise the money. So right now we're in the process of trying to find donors or anybody who wants to come alongside of us and help support our work. Because we have like 3 scripts ready to go, and we're ready to make another movie. I know we have 3
scripts.
finished
So
scripts.
3 meaning 3 movies then.
Well, they're not finished; they're just script form.
Right.
So
yeah. So but then a script has its own story, right? So that would go on to a movie, and then this is
right. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
So we're in that phase right now of either trying to figure out who's our next partner or who's our next investor. Because we have, actually, one of the other things, women power, is our chat today, because one of our biggest investors is a woman who believes in our work and has paid for our films. And I think that's so important that, sometimes we'll pitch our movies and the guys at the head of the table will be like, I don't really understand these girls in high school or why they're dealing with these issues. And we ended up finding a woman who loved what we were doing and supported that. So we are looking for the next person who supports us and wants to come alongside of us, because we're so itching to make another movie. We're ready.
Beautiful. Andrea, do you have anything to add to that?
She hit it all. Yeah, we've got some really fun stories that we want to tell, and we continue to want to create that content that moms trust and kids love, and we want to also continue I love that Alexandra mentioned the novel, because it does fit into the saying yes and doing something you don't know how to do necessarily.
Just get started. Just do it.
We write the scripts, and oftentimes a script is based on a novel or a book. And so, but what we did was flip it, and we took our script and we novelized the script to make a story. And it was super fun. Found an illustrator and found all the pieces to pull that together, and made a really, really fun book. And so we'd like to continue to have that as a component along with our movies. And so I think that's what's coming next.
Perfect. So let's pivot to a self-worth question, because that is the essence of my podcast. And I think we did touch about on this a few minutes ago as throughout the conversation. So here it is. Here it is. Self-worth can be affected by relationships with others. So how can individuals establish healthy boundaries and foster relationships that support their self-discovery journey?
Woo!
That's
Wow.
beautiful.
That's a beautiful question. It's a big question. I'll jump in and just say that I'm a huge fan of boundaries. I think boundaries are the most important thing that we can discover for ourselves and put in place. They're really hard to put in place, but when you do it, I think it helps us figure out who we are as people. And I am a big fan of the book Boundaries by Dr. Cloud, and I forgot the other author, but it's okay. Townsend, Dr. Townsend, Dr. Cloud, and they use an example. They say, you know, we thrive as people if you have a healthy fence around your property with a gate. And kids, for instance, they will stay huddled in a little part of the yard, but if you put a fence around it, they'll go right to the edges because they'll go right to the edge of the fence. And then if you have a gate, you can open the gate to let safe things in and put unsafe things out. And I use that like for my just mentally when I start to have that feeling like something's just not right about this. So what's inside my boundary that
Yard.
I need to pick out,
Yeah.
you know, so that I can be safe again? Or what do I need to bring in that would be a safe thing that will feed my soul, that will help me grow as a person and help me be all that I want to be? So I think that and I don't want to be too individualistic, but I actually think we have to do that hard work ourselves and then really
That's
work
so
on
true.
evaluating our relationships and say, is this person feeding my soul? Is it bringing life to me, or are they not? And who can I draw closer to me and into my inner circle that will light me up and make me come alive and you know, and make me be the best person that I could be? And if there's someone that's draining us of that, I'm cautious because sometimes we have people in our lives that are just going through a hard time. I don't think we just kick everybody
Yeah,
out as they're going through a hard time.
that's
But I
true.
do think we need to
Yeah.
be conscious that when somebody's going through a hard time and they're draining us, we got to have extra people that are feeding us and filling us up
Mm.
and
Mm.
counterbalancing that negativity, because negativity can really, you know, really bring you down. So
Spiral.
I, I,
Yeah.
I think that your question is awesome. And in order for us to be the best person that we can be, we have to just put that safety around ourselves. Just one more little note on that. When we get hurt, and you mentioned earlier about trauma in your life, when we get hurt, it's really easy to build walls. But what walls
Mm.
do, you can't see through a wall. So what you end up
Yeah.
doing is with walls, you just close yourself in and make yourself small. And that won't eventually,
Yeah.
it won't help you thrive as a person. So thinking more about that gate or something with windows at least where you're looking out and you have sunlight coming in,
Yeah.
there's something that's feeding you. We have to be, you know, really careful to protect ourselves but not wall ourselves off. And I think that that's how
Mm.
we really become the most healthy versions of ourselves.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Alexandra?
Yeah, so it's such a great question and it's so important. And I was just reflecting while Andrea was talking, and that was beautiful. Andrea. Because I moved out of my hometown at 19 years old, I became an adult so fast. And I also put myself into one of the most competitive industries in the world as an actor. And I was surrounded by so many people who were in competition with me, or I felt in competition with them, and their success was my failure. And it really ruined my self-confidence. I think, you know, I spent 10 years in what I thought I was failing constantly in this industry that I could not work in, and then comparing myself to all these people who were doing well, and it just depleted me. And I think I'm so glad that I finally flipped that switch in my head and said, instead of being jealous of that person over there who's working, why don't I call them on the phone and ask to go to coffee and learn from them? And say, well, how did you?
Mm.
And instead of, and that really changed my whole life and my self-worth, because I went to coffee with them and said, you're amazing. Can I come alongside you and learn from you? And maybe I could be amazing too. And like, so instead of that, defensive of you're doing good, I'm not. I flipped it and said, what are you doing right that I can learn from? And then I did surround myself. I mean, success rises in groups, and positive people usually spend time with each other. So I definitely spent some time cleaning out some friends that I was like, you're not bringing me up, you're bringing me down, and gravitating to the ones who were doing well. And then I also think for me, so much of my career was waiting for someone to pick me, and I couldn't work hard enough for someone to choose me. And in acting, you have no control over what you look like and how they choose. And the day I chose myself and said, I'm going to step into this and make my own thing, that changed my self-confidence. It was life changing to pivot and say, I'm not going to sit around and wait for someone to pick me. I'm going to pick myself and create something and give myself the opportunity that I've been waiting for. And then with that, I found out that I had all these skill sets I didn't even know I had. And then I love them. I love writing and producing. What if I had spent the next 10 years doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, which makes you insane.
Yeah.
And I think, like you making your own podcast, finding a way to be creative and taking control of your creative destiny, your life, will make you feel so much more worthy. And also, do not look at people and compare yourself. Either learn from them or go, how can I shift my life so that I feel more self-worth? And let me tell you, I'm a whole different person now that I'm creating stuff than when I was just sitting around waiting for someone to pick me.
Yeah, because we're all creators at the end of the day. We co-create. Yeah. And I think both of you said something that I hold to a very high regard of, and that was I lost my train of thought. That it was something so beautiful, and I was like reflecting when you said it, and it's because oftentimes I also think that I am not. Before, I struggled so much that I'm not worthy. But right now, we are that's the very essence. We were born that way. It's just this conditioning that we were brought up in, and the limiting beliefs that was instilled, and having the awareness to, okay, and also wanting to move out of it and just pave your own way. I think that's one of the most powerful thing that somebody can do. Whew. Okay.
Love, pave your own way. Sometimes you have to make your own road, just like the table.
Yeah. I was thinking when both of you were talking too, we've never lived in a time in history like we do right now, where we really can do it. Like, you can write a book, you can publish it, it could be up on Amazon.
Exactly.
You can speak to your audience with your iPad, and so this idea that you can't do it, we can do it, and but we have to step out and try, right? We got to actually do it, and there's ways that we can get our message out to the world, literally. You mentioned that earlier in our conversation, and that's so exciting. So now we just need the confidence to do it, right?
Yes.
Crisis, and then they will have all the confidence to do it.
Exactly. No, full circle. They just need the takeaway of this podcast. Watch Identity Crisis, which I will after this, and I will definitely give my review. Okay,
thank you.
So thank you for that, Alexandra and Andrea. Four more questions, and I know it's evening time at your end. We're gonna wrap up as quick as we can. So what is your heart's greatest wish?
Heart's greatest wish?
Yes.
Mine is that yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, no, you go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say,
my greatest wish is
maybe Andrea first.
Thank you.
I want people to have hope. I want people to realize that there is so much beauty, creativity, and delight in this world, and that we could breathe and have hope that it's worth living in our world. That's my dream.
Mine is that we can continue to encourage young girls to know that they are worthy, that they are worth a lot. Working in the entertainment industry, I've been really disappointed to see the representation of women, the continued narrative that a girl is only worthy if the boy likes her. That hurts my heart.
Yes.
My heart's
Yeah.
desire to create content that inspires girls to know that they're amazing and that they can do anything. And I think that's what our films are doing. Our films are also to encourage girls to have good relationships with each other, to love each other, to champion each other, to not be in competition. So my heart's desire is to keep doing what we're doing and combating all the negative messaging these girls are getting, that we are telling them that they are loved, they're important, they matter, and they're precious. And that's my heart's desire, is to continue to do that.
Thank you. Do you have a mantra that you live by? Maybe Andrea first.
Well, I have a life verse that always goes through my head, I guess, and that is, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And I think that I try to practice noticing and living in the moment, and that's what I think delighting is it's so my mantra is, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart.
Thank you. Alexandra.
I think mine is what I said before. The answer is already no if you don't ask, and nothing will happen if you don't try. And I think one of my favorite lines that's in Identity Crisis is, the girl asks the clone, well, what if I fail? And the other girl says, so what? You get back up and you try again. That's what I tell myself all the time. If someone rejects us, if we fail, I say, who cares? Let's try it again. And that's how that's how I live my life. And my motto is just keep trying. There is no such thing as failure.
I also read something like, what if you fail? Oh, but what if you fly?
Right?
What if you fly? I think she might even say that to her. What if you don't? What if you don't fail? What if you're amazing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so what keeps you guys up at night? Or do you sleep well? Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
So as the mom here, I would say that I spent about 18 years not sleeping, and so now I sleep great. Now that my kids are adults and they're on their own, and I'm not being woken up in the middle of the night, I sleep wonderful.
Yeah,
great to hear that.
I sleep really good. I do. I sleep really good. I really think, I think having peace of heart is really important. And every day we really, really are trying to live it to the fullest and be a part of being the good change in the world. So I think when I lay my head down on the pillow, I feel like I've given it my all that day, and I can go to sleep, and next day, and I can't wait to get up the next day and do it all over again. And one the other reason I have to go to bed is because I love my morning cup of coffee. So sometimes I go to bed thinking, the sooner I get to sleep, the sooner I get to wake up and have coffee. And it works.
That's your motivation. Perfect. Okay, last question. So maybe, Andrea could go first, and Alexandra. I know we touch about quotes and mantra, but if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
This is kind of my thing for this year, and it is that there's nothing wasted in waiting. And I said that earlier, but there's nothing wasted in waiting. That's what I would leave the world. Be patient, and the good things come to those who wait.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
I guess mine would be, what we put out is really what we get back, and how we treat people is so important. People are more important than anything. We always say that on our film set. People are more important than the movie. They're more important than everything. And I believe that if we, Andrea and I believe in, we believe in the Lord, and we believe in life. We're going to see all the things that we have done here that we haven't even been able to see, the lives we've touched. So, and I just believe that what you put out is what you get back. And be kind to people. Be kind, and people will be kind back,
That's so true. Oh, perfect. I would like to express my gratitude to each one of you for spending the time each evening at your side and for sharing your knowledge, your insights, your experiences, and how we connected so well on so many levels. And I admire the work that you do. You're not just only speaking up for women, but you're also showing that you can work with women and with your siblings. And it's no longer I'm on my own, you're on your own, you know? And for that, thank you very much for your work. You are such a beautiful soul.
Thank
You,
you.
Nicolette. Thank you for having us. And I'm so glad we got to meet you. This is awesome. We have a new friend in Malaysia.
Yeah.
I love that.
I always said that to my guests. It's like, also, this opens up a door for me to gain new friends across the world. Like right now, I have people in Los Angeles. Andrea is in Boston, is it?
Wisconsin.
Massachusetts? Right. Wisconsin. And perfect. We already know that we're here. And in case you come to this side of the world, just let me know. We're connected. Instagram. There's so many ways to connect, and we'll definitely meet up. And I got off a call with another guest just now, and I was just thinking to her, like, perhaps I'd like to rally all of this, maybe have like an event and have you guys speak your own platform, speak like you're about filmmaking, that person is about, I don't know, money coaching, and one person is about fitness, but for women. So but I'm gonna put some thought into that, and then I'll be in contact.
Wonderful.
Can we follow you on social media or connect with you? Are you on Instagram?
Yes, I just followed you. My handle as your podcast, and I also have my personal account. I am engineers. It's all in my profile, or I could drop you that in on Podmatch.
Oh,
Great.
perfect.
Well, yeah, we have the Boylan sisters on Instagram, and people can follow us. We always write everybody back. Alexandra Boylan on Instagram, Andrea's A. Polnazik on Instagram, right? And then please check out our website for your audience. We'd love it if the audience went to our website. It's theboylansisters.com. All of our films are there. Our film titles are Catching Faith 1 and 2, The Greatest Inheritance, Switched, Identity Crisis, A Wish for Christmas. So it means a lot to us if people watch our films and rate and review them and spread the word, because we're indie. So we only succeed by word of mouth and people loving it and telling their friends. So please share it with your friends.
Thank you. I will be sure to tag you all and put all your websites.
Thank you. So good to meet you. Good to meet you.
Me too.